Over the course of the last year and a half, we've talked extensively about the future of CD Projekt Red as a developer and also Cyberpunk 2077. There's been a lot of, let's just say, quietness from CDPR. There's been a lot of hope within the community that they are going to No Man's Sky Cyberpunk 2077. I've been, let's just say, very pessimistic about that because I really do think that they want to move past this game and get to the next Witcher installment. But hey, there has been hope. There's been some signs of life from CDPR. One of the biggest updates that came earlier this year, which was the next gen version, that included a lot of great quality of life improvements, and the game was starting to turn it around. But I've remained pretty much just firm with my stance that I don't really know what else is going to be happening with this game. I think a lot of the plans that CDPR had have been blown up by the fact that the launch was such a disaster that they had to spend the last year and a half fixing it up, and they are still fixing it up to this day. And sales since December of 2020 have pretty much just not happened. I think the first month the game sold around 13 million copies, which is amazing considering everything that had happened. But after that, I think the game went on to sell maybe 1 million or 2 within the first year, and I think it's gone on to sell a couple more million. But you have to remember that there is a difference between people buying the game at $60 and getting the game for like $5 at Best Buy and GameStop, which is what it's being sold for at a lot of retailers nowadays. Cyberpunk 2077 has been through a rough patch, and the visions, the hopes that a lot of us had that Cyberpunk 2077 was going to be treated like The Witcher 3 have kind of been blown up. Like my initial reaction, my initial expectation, because this is what CDPR told us before launch, was that we were going to be getting Witcher 3 expansions with Cyberpunk 2077. What does that mean? It just means we're going to be getting expansions that are the size of new games. And based on what's happened today, that doesn't appear to be happening. So what actually happened was that CDPR had an investor call, and the CEO of the company, Adam Kaczynski, said the following.
This is the question I can precisely answer. Cyberpunk expansion is the last product based on Red Engine. Any further product will be on Unreal. Actually, it's too early. I mean, we want to announce the title later this year, because the title is not announced. I mean, the title of the expansion. And then we'll talk more about the pricing, about the content, the whole concept. It's too early to share this information. Of course, we have everything planned because, it's very advanced, but we don't want to reveal just one fact, because then gamers will take it and they will start discussing this. So everything will be
understood.
Now, what does that exactly mean? Well, it's pretty clear. There is only going to be one expansion coming for this game in 2023. And I do know that with this specific point, there has been some confusion with people arguing that he said expansions and not expansion. But if you watch that entire investor call, which is why I added another clip there in which he talks about the expansion, he specifically only refers to expansion and not expansions, and he calls it the upcoming titles. So it's pretty clear in my opinion, and also the fact that CDPR has not come out with a statement refuting this, I think it's pretty certain that this is indeed only one expansion coming for this game in 2023. Now, they also revealed that in the second half of 2022, they will start marketing for this experience, but unfortunately, this first expansion entirely leaked. Yes, that happened, and you have to be very wary of spoilers everywhere and anywhere you go, because the entire story of this expansion is out there. The entire plot, characters, some of the variations with how the story goes along. It's baffling that this happened, and no, this is not happening because of an insider, maybe not a hacker or anything like that, but apparently in the recent patch for this game, CDPR, a developer, accidentally kept files in for the expansion, and it was downloaded and data mined. And all of that content is now online, and the entire plot, again, has been detailed. So be wary of spoilers. It's just very unfortunate that this is happening, because the expansion probably is not coming for at least another 10 months, and I genuinely don't know how this happens. My initial suspicion was maybe this was a hacker. There was that hacking situation that happened about a year ago with Cyberpunk 2077's files, but now, according to what's going on with Reddit and the initial official reports, this was via CDPR. So it's just, I'm honestly very sad about all of this. I've taken a look at the expansion leak, and I'm not going to go into too many details, but from past leaks that we talked about and one of my bigger videos that I did recently on Cyberpunk pretty much confirms that. So a lot of the expansion is going to be taking place in Pacifica, and I'll read this article coming from VGC because it goes over the non-spoilers of this. So hundreds of lines of dialogue reportedly from Cyberpunk 2077's first expansion have appeared online, seemingly outlining the entire plot of the DLC's questline. The files, which have been widely circulated on social media, were reportedly data mined from a recent game patch and appear to suggest that the DLC will follow Songbird, a character that was previously data mined from the original game and features a finished model. And for what it is worth, we actually do have footage of what Songbird looks like, or looked like. This was found in the game's files, and a YouTube video from Jeremy Sandwich showcased her, in which she could wear a variety of outfits that were on Pan Am and Judy, and she also has a romance option. So maybe that is something that comes to fruition within this DLC, but again, this is incomplete, so it could be changed over time. It's claimed that the files aren't complete, with several side missions using placeholder text, but the leak appears to confirm that the expansion will include 7 main missions. I don't know how this compares to the actual base game of Cyberpunk 2077, but this seems very small. It doesn't seem to be on the scale of the Witcher 3 expansions, but we'll have to see with what that content actually is once it releases, but this does seem a lot smaller. According to Reddit users, the expansion will take players to the combat zone, an area of the Pacifica region, which was inaccessible in the base game but did feature in the art book, The World of Cyberpunk 2077. Players will also visit the Sports Dome, the large inaccessible area from the main game, which will be the location of one of the main missions. Interestingly, there appears to be very little dialogue featuring Johnny Silverhand, and this is of course how they're getting around the fact that they probably couldn't get Keanu Reeves to record a bunch of new lines. They figured out a way to just throw him onto the sidelines. They probably have a few lines here and there, but for the most part, it seems like he's just not going to be having much of a role within the only expansion of Cyberpunk 2077. It is worth mentioning within this VGC article, it said that the in-game reason for why Johnny Silverhand doesn't have much of appearance within this expansion is because of other characters silencing him, including one of them being Songbird. Now, I'm not going to go into too many more details from this post, but it has been mentioned that this expansion does take place before the game's endings, and there seems to be some changes to how the ending goes about based on the events that happen in this expansion. Again, not going to go into specifics, and if you are looking up stuff online about Cyberpunk, be very, very, very careful about running into those spoilers. But this conclusion to Cyberpunk 2077, at least this is what it appears, isn't very surprising. This game has just been something that CDPR wants to move away from for quite some time. They spent the last year and a half investing lots of resources and time fixing it up, and now they are ready to move on. It's just, as a fan of this game who really did enjoy Cyberpunk 2077 and saw the potential in these characters, this world, it's disappointing. I really thought we were going to be going outside of Night City, visiting tons of different locations. Personally, myself, I thought that there was a chance that we could see a continuation of the Pan Am and V arc in which we go to Arizona. There was some ways that could work for all of the endings and characters. And then the big one, which everybody was kind of excited and hopeful for, was the big space heist one. And maybe that still happens within this expansion, but it just doesn't seem very likely, and there's no indication of it, at least based on what I've seen from this leak. I really did think that there was going to be some huge expansions, and this still looks like it could be a lot of fun, but it definitely seems scaled down from maybe their initial vision. It is indeed worth mentioning once more that this is incomplete, this expansion is still in development, but this does appear to be authentic, and this does appear to be the main structure of what this expansion will be. It's not going to be something that's significantly altering what Cyberpunk 2077 is and has been. I know some people really were hoping that there was going to be a huge overhaul to this game, and they saw that the next-gen version that came out earlier this year as proof of that, but that does not appear to be the case. CDPR pretty much is ready to move on from Cyberpunk 2077. Of course, most of the company is still working on this expansion right now. It just doesn't seem to be that there's enthusiasm for continuing with this past 2023 or whenever this first expansion releases, because the focus will then shift to The Witcher 4. Regardless, if there is, I guess you could say, some positivity that it can make out of this first expansion well, the only expansion, I keep saying that, the only expansion that is coming to Cyberpunk 2077. I really do think a comparison could be made to maybe Broken Steel from Fallout 3. I've seen some people mention that there is going to be some content that further enhances how the game concludes, and there's going to be some variations and stuff like that. Again, I'm not trying to get into spoiler territory, but it does have me excited to revisit this and see how it all comes together. But I don't think it's going to be as substantial as some people hope it to be. But again, until CDPR, properly finishes this and starts marketing it, we won't know for sure. But it does appear that Cyberpunk 2077's life is quite literally about to come to an end. And this has been quite the journey. We've been talking about this game on this channel for about, I want to say it's been like 6 or so years. And it's very unfortunate what Cyberpunk 2077 turned into, but I do hope that CDPR, the team that still remains there, can really end this game on a high note. And again, we'll probably be talking about Cyberpunk 2078 or whatever the next one will be in the next number of years as CDPR moves from the Red Engine to Unreal Engine 5. And I just hope the many lessons that they should have learned have been learned and aren't repeated with The Witcher 4 and then the games to follow after that. But we've seen this before in this industry. Nobody seems to learn jack shit, so we probably will be talking about the next disaster in the next couple of years with this company or maybe another AAA developer, because all this stuff just keeps repeating. But there are reasons to be optimistic. If you were hopeful to see maybe not a lot, but a decent amount of new content, that appears to be coming in the near future. That wait, though, will continue all the way into sometime in 2023. And again, without going into spoilers, we don't know how Judy or Pan Am will factor into this expansion. It's not detailed in this leak, so you don't have to worry about that. But based on the reaction, I'm sure CDPR has been seeing that, and I'm sure that they're going to be incorporated, hopefully heavily, in this expansion. And from what I've seen, some of the details about it, there's some exciting moments in here, including Militech and within the combat zone. I really do think there's going to be some fun here with some characters that are known in the Cyberpunk universe but have not been introduced yet, or at the very least have only been mentioned or played a very small role up to this point. One example, without getting into spoilers, is that there appears to be a crash that happens within the combat zone of an important political figure within the world of Cyberpunk. And I guess all of this plays out very similar to, at least it sounds like, an Escape from New York-like situation that V finds themselves in, and that just sounds awesome and badass, honestly. As I alluded to earlier, and as is mentioned within this leak, there's going to be a bunch of new gigs, side stories, world events for people to come upon, and street stories for people to discover, and hopefully this isn't detailed here, but I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of new weapons and gear for players to use. So that should be another thing that I guess you could consider exciting, especially with hopefully how it all comes together and some of the mysteries that a lot of us have with Cyberpunk 2077. And unless I'm reading this incorrectly, there is mention to a few different and unique things. There's the mention to world encounters, there's 13 street stories detailed here, and then there's mini world stories. Maybe these are like random encounters that occur within Night City. There's one mentioned, I believe, in Arroyo, another in Haywood, and one in Watson, so I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be, but maybe there's some more interactivity happening within Night City, filling up the world a little bit more, and I think that would be a great thing. But in regards to, let's just say, some of the bigger things people have been theorizing for quite some time about, like the casino that's incomplete but is in the world of Night City, I don't know if that's going to be complete. There's no mention to that. I really do hope that we see that place completed. This was something that CDPR teased long before the game released. And then there's also the whole rogue AI storyline. I don't believe that's going to be happening here, and I just really hope that's not something that has been scrapped, because I was really intrigued and hopeful we'd see that completed and figure out what's going on with the Blue Eyes people and how this factors into the world of Night City, and maybe if there's a larger mystery at bay. But hopefully that isn't something that just got scrapped because of time and them needing to move their attention to the next AAA game. But anyway, to wrap all of this up, the future of Cyberpunk 2077 appears to be coming to an end. The only expansion will be coming out in 2023. We'll probably be hearing about this maybe at Gamescom later this year, or maybe we'll see a debut trailer or something. And while this leak does detail a lot, not everything has been confirmed. Like many of the characters in the game, we don't know what role they'll be playing, such as Pan Am and Judy. We don't know if those romances will continue. We also don't know any gear, weapons. We don't know a lot of these side stories since they are not complete, and this is still something that is in development. That's something that is very important. And beyond just this expansion, there are many questions in regards to the future of Cyberpunk as a brand, like what is going to be happening after this game? Is the multiplayer component, the multiplayer standalone, still something that is happening, or is that something that has now been canceled? Because we still have no idea. CDPR has been hiring for it, so I imagine that is still something coming, but is that something that's going to be connected to a sequel? I guess those answers will be something that comes in due time, but something that we'll be probably talking about and maybe speculating about for the next couple of years as CDPR shifts their attention back to the Witcher universe. Anyway, I want to know what your thoughts are on the future of Cyberpunk 2077. What do you make of the revelations that hit today? I personally I don't know if I can say that this is a good thing. I think that it's not very surprising, but I do find it somewhat disappointing that there's only going to be one expansion. It could still end up being substantial in its content, but based on what I'm seeing here, it doesn't appear to be so. But hey, that is, I guess you could say, premature at this point until CDPR, officially finishes it and starts talking about it. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also, check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games. And again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this. I'll see you later.